Today we're going to do a lesson on order of operations. In the past you've been taught PEMDAS for order of operations. This year we're going to change the wording a little bit. As you're following along with this video, please write down everything that you see written on your paper on the screen. Let's begin with talking about what our new formula is going to be. Instead of PEMDAS, we are going to use GEMDAS. The way that'll look is G, E, MD, and then AS. What that stands for is G is grouping symbols, E is exponents, M is for multiplication and division, A and S is for addition and subtraction. This is the order that we're going to solve all our problems today. Let's begin. Problem number 1. Please write down the following problem. 8 minus 4 divided by 2 plus 3 times 5. Okay. On the side of your paper, as you're doing every one of these problems, go ahead and write G first, that's our first step, E, MD, put those together, and AS, put those together. The reason we group multiplication and division is because we go left to right, whichever one we see first, so put an arrow on the top. Same with addition and subtraction. Put an arrow over top. Okay? So now we're going to look for the first step, which is grouping symbols. Are there any grouping symbols in this problem? Grouping symbols are things like parentheses, brackets, square root bars, and absolute value bars. Since there are none in this problem, we're going to cross that off. Next. There are no exponents in this problem. Now we're going to look for any multiplication and division that we have and go left to right. So follow along with me as I draw a red line under the problem until I come to multiplication or division. Okay. It looks like right there I've come to a division problem. So I'm going to go ahead and work that problem, 4 divided by 2. When I do that, I'm going to be very careful. I'm going to draw an arrow because I'm working with those two numbers, and I'm going to write the answer to that. Now, as I work this problem, I'm only allowed to do one step at a time. So after I write that, I'm going to go back and recopy everything else in the problem. I have the 8. I have minus, I have a plus, I have a 3, and I have a times 5. Now, I'm going to check and see if I'm done with all of the multiplication or division. So again, I'm going to move my finger from left to right until I come to multiplication or division. And right at the back, there is a multiplication problem. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. 3 times 5, and write the answer. And then I'm going to be very careful as I go back and write everything else down. Now notice I didn't write the 3 because I took care of the 3 times 5 in this problem right here. Next. Have I taken care of all the multiplication and division? If I have, I'm going to go ahead and cross out multiplication and division. Next, I want to do addition and subtraction, and I want to be very careful. Because the A is first, I don't necessarily do addition first. These two hang around together, so whichever one I see first, left to right, is what I'm going to do. So here I go again with my red line, When I see any addition or subtraction, I'm going to stop. I have a subtraction problem there. 8 minus 2, the answer is 6. Bring down everything else that I've done, that I have. Have I taken care of all the addition and subtraction? I still have more. The last step in my problem, I'm going to go with my line until I've covered the problem. I've got 6 plus 15, and the answer to that is 21. Have I done everything in the problem? I crossed that off. When I have been able to cross everything off, my problem is complete. Before we start the next problem, I want to remind you that whenever you see a fraction, that tells you that you have a division problem. For example, if you have 14 over 2, that's the same as saying 14 divided by 2, and that equals 7. Okay, so let's look at a problem that has some division in it. Okay, please write down this problem. 35 minus 28 over 2. Again, off to the side, we're going to write our order of operations. We're going to put G on top, then E, then MD with an arrow because we go left to right, then AS with an arrow because we go left to right. Again, you're going to be crossing these off as you see them. Do we have any grouping symbols here? I don't see any parentheses. I don't see any groups of numbers that I need to do first, so I'm going to cross that off. Next, we're looking for exponents. There are no exponents in this problem. Now, let's be very careful as we search for multiplication and division. We said a fraction is a division problem. So in this problem, what I see subtraction and I see division. According to my order of operations, I need to do the division first. So I'm going to go ahead and take this part of the problem and figure out what 28 divided by 2 is. 28 divided by 2 is 14. Then I'm going to be very careful and write down every other part of the problem that I didn't touch yet. I didn't touch the 35, and I didn't touch the subtraction sign. Okay, now I'm going to look and see, have I done all of my multiplication and division? And if I have, I'm going to cross that off, and I have. All I have left is addition or subtraction. I have a subtraction problem. I have 35 minus 14, which leaves me with 21. 21 is the answer to this problem. Our next problem is going to be a little more complicated. We're going to take the idea of a division problem and expand it. Let's look at this problem. Go ahead and write this down for me. 10 plus 30 divided by 5, all of that over 28 divided by 7 times 2. Okay. Again, over to the left, I'm going to write grouping symbols come first, then exponents, then multiplication or division, I work left to right, addition or subtraction, I work left to right. Now I want to remind you that this is actually a very big division problem. But when I do this division problem, I have to take care of the numerator first and make it cleaned up, and then clean up the denominator second, and then I can divide. I can't just pick and choose numbers that I want to divide. I have to have one numerator and one denominator. Right now, I don't have one numerator and one denominator. I have 3 numbers in my numerator. So what I have is a group of numbers. So I'm going to go ahead and put this in parentheses because that's a group that I need to solve first. And then I'm going to put this in parentheses because that's another group. Whenever you have more than one number in the numerator and denominator, you can go ahead and put those in parentheses because that shows you that you want to solve those first. So let's go ahead and take care of our grouping symbols. In the numerator, I have 10 plus 30 divided by 5. So let me work that separate. 10 plus 30 divided by 5. What part of that should be done first? Well, I would probably do the division first. Now, since this is a fraction, it gets a little tricky in how I want to show my work. So what I'm going to do is kind of work the numerator above the problem and the denominator below. If I don't do that, sometimes I forget to write the denominator when I'm done. So I've got 30 divided by 5, and I'm going to write the answer up here. Okay? So I've worked with these two numbers. What do I have left? I still have the 10 plus the 6. Okay? Now my numerator is not done. I did the multiplication and division in my numerator. Now I need to do the addition and subtraction in my numerator. So I've got 10 plus 6. That gives me a total of 18. My numerator is now done. Now I have another group in my denominator. I have 28 divided by 7 times 2. Let's start back in my order of operations. There are no exponents here. There is multiplication and division, and what I learned is I go left to right. So what I'm going to do first is the division problem. 28 divided by 7 is 4. Then I copy down everything else I have. 4 times 2, so my new denominator here is 8. The answer to this problem is 18 divided by 8. I can turn that into a decimal. Okay. I know that 8 goes into 18 2 times. And then I have 2 left over, 0.25. 2.25 becomes my answer.